Well, the events this week once again highlighted a rift in many areas between police officers and the communities they serve, but also the dangers that police officers face while they're on the job. And here with me now is Psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober. Dr. Bober, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You see police officers on a weekly basis.
Yes.
What do you think most people don't realize about the stress that they're under?
I don't think the public has any clue about the stress that police officers face. The threats to their physical safety, the threats to their health, their mental health, that they encounter on a daily basis, and the effect it has on their family. I think the public doesn't really understand that, and sometimes is not very sensitive to that.
What advice do you give to police officers who are constantly coping with this stress and dealing in this high-pressure environment?
I tell them to mobilize their supports. Many police departments have employee assistance programs, so things like that. Obviously talking to their families, talking to clergy, to use every support mechanism necessary to get through their day.
I think about also the families, the wives they leave behind, the spouses, the children. What kind of support do they get?
Well, you know, very often it's from other police officers' families. It's from counselors that are employed by the department. But, you know, I tell this to people all the time. You know, when these police officers go off to work, this is not like an office job. I mean, this is a job where literally every day when they wake up in the morning, they may not come home. And that has a tremendous impact on the wives or the significant others of these officers.
So how do they decompress? You know, how do they deal with that stress? What advice would you give to police officers across the country?
Most important thing is communication. I think the job makes you somewhat numb. You're dealing with life and death all the time, and so you sort of distance yourself from the emotion. I think spend time with your family, communicate, don't cut yourself off from the people that love you the most, because sometimes when you cut yourself off the most, that's when you need the most help. So
It's
don't
tough.
do it.
I mean, these are men and women who are carrying guns, who are used to a tough environment. I mean,
Absolutely.
telling them to talk about their feelings is probably something they not always do often.
And it's probably not encouraged in the culture of policing, but it's something just like in the military we need to do. We need to tell people that they have to verbalize their feelings, because if they keep them inside, then they fester and it eats them from the inside out.
I've spent a lot of time abroad embedded with U.S. troops, and I know the stress that they are under in a war zone atmosphere. It's so disheartening to see them returning home and not getting the services they need. We talk about folks in the military. What do they need to do when they return home?
They need the same supports that people in the military do. In fact, it's ironic, but a lot of the people that come back from the military often become police officers. So it's actually a very similar mentality. I think part of it is destigmatizing mental illness and substance abuse. And when people come to us with problems, we can't judge them. We can't say they're weak or have a character defect. We have to have some sense of understanding and appreciation of what they're going through and try to empathize with that.
You've spoken a lot about a phenomenon called learned helplessness in communities that are struggling. What is that?
Learned helplessness is a theory that was invented by a Dr. Martin Seligman, and it talks about how when people are in an environment where they're traumatized and they feel like there's no escape, at some point they just give up, and even when they can escape, they don't, because they're so beat down, they don't have the drive to move forward anymore. And that's actually one of the theories of what leads to depression, is learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness. Dr. Daniel Bober, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.